Why, hello, hi, it is me, it is I, Smotan Didi, you're a Khadi on the internet, and I am back. We're back, you guys. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let your people know about me. We are trying to grow this channel. I see you guys are subscribing. Thank you so much for the new subbies. Welcome to it. I want to sit down and do a review of the Real Housewives of Abuja. Okay, so send some strength my way to get that done. I am a mess. I've got a headache. I'm trying to drink some water. You can't tell, but it's water in here with some lemon. I'm just really trying to get by. Managing load shedding with the kind of work that I do. It's been a bit of a headache. I am down up on here, the internet, as you're a Hadi on the internet, to have a chat about around the planning or lack of planning we all seem to be complaining about, that Black parents in the South African context, to be specific and particular, that we feel, I came across a TikTok actually, love to create content around that because there's always so much to chew on in the comment sections. You can really gauge where people's thoughts are, well, to a very small degree, because TikTok isn't the whole of Mzansi, right? But you know what I'm saying. Anyway, this young lady, Skin Poppin', okay, I'll attach her TikTok. I'll actually just insert her TikTok here. So let's have a look at this first, and then we'll get into it.
I just came here to vent about Black parents that are underprepared for their children going to university, right? This doesn't annoy me, but abazali act like you were born and then right when you were born you go to varsity, and that's not the case. These people have 18 years to prepare for their children going to varsity, but when the time comes they are so underprepared. Okay, yes, there are things like NSFAS, there are things like NRF that are supposed to help the underprivileged get a better education, a tertiary education. But these institutions are not, these, I don't even know, are they called institutions? They are not enough, okay? They are never enough. Also, ezi zinto ziphendula late, they answer late, okay? You could be studying from February up until May and you still haven't gotten an answer from a funding ndondon. Kwela xesha, your parents also don't have money to help you out because they never prepared for the moment. And then you are told, go to varsity. With what preparation? Yo guys, this is sokola. Yo guys, we struggle. Kubhlungu going to varsity with zero money. It's kubhlungu. It's so okay. I'm not bashing my family, but I just feel better, they could have done better. They could have done so much better at a preparation of going to varsity. They could have been so much better preparation for my varsity life. That's just me. And I was talking to my friend the other day, and last year she was getting a bursary. Was paying for her accommodation, but then this year they can only pay half. So she's telling her father, "Bana, yes, Sana, mamela mchita. Only my bursary is only going to pay half of my accommodation. So ujoying kutatake bana, maniga, I need your help." But then utatake ujoying kuye ba. So uzotini ke gogo like. It's the craziest thing to me. It's not even funny, but it's crazy. What do you mean? Like, what, ew, just
Get into it. Alright. There is a lot to chew on here, right? Okay. My initial, what's going on with me? Oh, I'm pressing a phone. My initial reaction, I think I kicked into protect the Black parent mode, and I was so quick. I left a comment on the thing, and then somebody tried to converse with me or left a comment under my comment. I don't like engaging people who don't have profile pictures or content on their own thing like this, because you could be anybody. You could be like somebody tried to shell at me and I said fuck off and now you're mad, and like you could be anybody. And I hate it because they're making valid points. I replied initially, then I opened I'm getting into the habit of doing that. I replied initially, but I'll post the comment under my comment, which got my wheels turning. But the other thing that got like me thinking was also that I sent the TikTok to two of my very, very good mates who are so bright, so thoughtful, so articulate, love them to the moon and back, and got their takes on it. Because my initial reaction was, well, first of all, it's capitalism. It's by design. It's policy. It's not an accident. Like, this is how capitalism functions. You're supposed to stay in a rat race. And if we're not getting young people, she seems relatively young. I don't know if it's just because she's so pretty, but like she seems a bit young. Her varsity experience sounds quite recent for her. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I feel that a lot of us who feel this way after having gone through this experience don't do the work to interrogate how we get here, because we tend to make structural issues individual problems. And that's where I was coming from here. It isn't that our parents don't want us to have a pleasant varsity experience, void of the stresses of money's not coming together, not knowing where you're gonna sleep, what you're gonna eat. No good parent rather, wants to throw their kid into the deep end like that and just be like, well, fend for yourself, girl, like sink or swim, girl, like either way, 2 mountains is paid up, honey. Like, nobody really wants to do that to their kid. So I want to break this down and give you my thoughts around this. Oh, my other reaction to it, because I had two, like they were quite immediate like that. Just the one that's like in defense of parents because of the structural inequalities that I'm aware of or made note of, that voice dominated in my head. But there was also the question of, we do sometimes manage to save. Are we just saving toward the wrong things, right? As the culture of saving has grown in the last few years, financial literacy is very popular as content online. You have the likes of the financial bunny Nicolette Mashiro. I think her surname is Mashiro. I could be wrong, and I'm sorry about that if I am. She's made this career for herself for giving. Granted, she's very attractive. We like to listen to attractive people, but we especially like to listen to attractive people sound smart. And she's amassed this audience around financial literacy and what have you. And it's not just her. Just we're in a group, we're part of a generation rather that's a bit more eager to get a handle on this, because we saw our parents struggle so much having to put us through school and just having to manage their households. But I'm gonna just break this down in a couple of points, and we're gonna be done with this chat in a jiffy. Okay. The first is the language we use sometimes, the lack of grace we have for our parents. That's the first thing I want us to talk about. Then I want us, or probably the last, one of the things, right? This is not going to be in order. Then I need us to talk about the capitalism of it all, the structure of it all, right? The fact that this is very much deliberate, right? And then finally, I want us to address the fact that, well, what can we do? Because it cannot be that there aren't in parts, like little bits where we can try to help ourselves, or where I feel we could possibly help ourselves. So let's get into it. The language we use when we speak of the people who came before us, the struggles they had, the decisions they made, because we now think we are in a better position, or rather we assume they too must have known to a degree. It's like, how are you guys just making these decisions? Like, how are you just not doing it differently? The lack of grace, the lack of, sometimes I just think some of us are less than smart and we do not possess the capacity to really apply ourselves, critically apply ourselves to what their circumstances were, what they had to work with, and how they arrived at the decisions that they arrived at. Some of our parents, for instance, had no fucking business being parents. We could start with that, right? Whereas now, there's a whole child-free talk, right? There's a whole There's subreddits on it. There are pockets of communities online of women in particular choosing to not have children. That was not popular discourse or just culture just a few years ago. So even the people who could not afford to have children weren't programmed to apply themselves that way, right? Like you just thought things would take care of themselves because it was encouraged. There's that, right? Then there's the institutional stuff, which is where I really think we need to focus all our energies. Fees Must Fall as a movement was to remove all of this shit. If we're saying that to grow as a country, as an economy, education is where it's at, why are there all these barriers to educating the South African youth or the youth in general? Why is the price of education what it is when you look at what the South African median income is? Like how the discrepancy there makes it's by design, okay? It's on purpose. They don't want you to be educated. They're just saying it. If you're educated, that makes for a labor force that cannot be exploited. Okay, and I'm not saying that if you go to school, you're automatically not going to be exploited. But we often find that it's the skill-based workers, the workers that don't have the fancy papers and stuff, who are exploited for their labor. Okay, capitalism only continues to function if we have a poor population. We need the workers who are not gonna riot, who are just gonna, dig their heels in and try to claw their way out all the way to the fucking grave. It's by design. Things aren't happening accidentally. Do you understand? There's a reason nothing ever gets fixed. Okay, there's a reason homeless people stay homeless. Okay, it's never gonna be free. It cannot be free, because then who is going to clean up after them for next to nothing? Right? Who are they gonna stomp on for fucking free? Do you understand what I'm saying here? So the Fees Must Fall movement was to eliminate this anxiety that we feel the black middle class has to deal with when we decide that we want to go to school, and then they all of a sudden all these hurdles, bam, 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 and then you end up dropping out, right? What happens when you drop out? You find yourself working a dead-end retail job. Okay, AdCon needs you to fail. Okay, do you understand? Mr. Price needs you to drop out and fucking fail, so they can continue to pay you next to nothing to fold t-shirts the whole day. And that is not me looking down on people who work retail. That is me saying that, and you get to a particular age in that retail job, and the reason we say it's dead end is that you at a particular age, you feel like if I don't have these kids now, biologically I may not be able to do it later on. I can't put it off anymore. You have them now, you find yourself repeating that cycle, right? Because you must have children for whatever reason. You mustn't. Please, like, if you don't want to, don't fucking do it, okay? There is no must, okay? But that's one thing that I do not want to dwell on any more than I already have. Then my friend makes me aware, one of my friends that I sent the voice note to, she makes this point that, because I said to her, the culture of saving is gaining momentum to a degree, and financially planning for your life, around me, I'm seeing it gain momentum. And she said to me, it's interesting to her that financial institutions no longer, they are very strategic in what they push on us as a demographic, okay? That's black people. When you get the cold calls from the people working at Absa Life or whatever, they hardly ever try to sell you an education fund. Matter of fact, I've never been sold an education anything. It's always a fucking funeral policy, right? Because they know we're programmed to budget for event, not life. We budget for a wedding, and we budget for funerals, and we budget for Christmas, right? That's the shit that we're getting wrong. So they're always trying to sell, and not, the other thing she made mention of is that they don't even try to sell you live cover. So maybe because the contribution to such a cover is a lot higher, than a federal policy. That's a lot. It's much lower. But can you imagine that little amount? You were putting that away from the time your little goober came into the world, and you felt this love that you never felt before, and looked into your eyes and love like no other. That's what y'all say. I don't know. Imagine you were making those contributions, or you were finding out ways to multiply those contributions over time. You can't imagine that because the financial institutions deliberately do not sell these packages to you. It's not that they aren't there. They don't promote them. Why? They make less money, right? They're quicker to sell you. God, that bitch is so bright. They're quicker to sell you on a federal thing or a loan, because they're gonna make more from you taking the loan versus you just putting money away to use for your child's education later in life. Again, the structural design element of things, right? We want to make it that our parents are just irresponsible. But you watched your mom struggle to get you through high school, right? She wants you to have somewhat a decent education. She decides she's taking you to a Model C school. She's a teacher. There's 3 of you. Your dad's a deadbeat, which is standard. That's another thing that we can't forget, right? The income that comes into an average South African household is very, very low. For us to think that mom is gonna pay for these school fees, pay for whatever extracurricular things, and mind you watch your parent struggle to put you through this very high school, to pay for your extracurricular stuff. You need hockey this, and then you need this and that, and you watch them struggle to do those things for you, yet somewhere here in the big, you think your mom has the monies to put away to save for you to go to varsity. She doesn't. She's hoping for the best. She's hoping you get that bursary or government funding of sorts, because she's done her part. And it's a difficult thing for us to understand. And you're like, oh my God, but how can my mom not prepare for me? Why am I over here so hungry? My mom had to get a loan for me to go and study further, right? And I carry so much guilt around for that. But I also didn't apply or audition to be here. You know, they decided to have me. So, but I also know how the world is structured. So I'm like, fine, I didn't audition or apply. I wasn't like, oh my God, I want to be here so bad. At the same time, I can't ignore that I know what I know, right? The other thing, I'm going to insert a little bit of this thing that I watched, another TikTok, just a piece of it, and then we'll come back and have the rest of the chat. Okay.
Middle class wants to, it's a pseudo class, I would call it that, because the middle class lives like white people, goes to the same Eurocentric, they live the same lifestyle, but they don't have the same advantage.
Example?
When your daughter from middle class goes to Wits University and you're paying those school fees, you're competing with a child whose grandparents are paying that child's school fees, or it's already been paid forward. They are moving into an apartment which is owned by the family, and they're driving a car which is a usufruct, is basically something you use which you haven't paid for. How is my child going to compete with that child? And then they've graduated together.
Yeah.
And they think they're equal. No. This one has got a job lined up from the family network, and they go and they work, you know? And their system of functioning is around wealth preservation.
Okay.
Now, if the whole system of them is wealth preservation, where did they get the wealth?
To start with, yeah.
They know how they got it. If I know I got something the hard way, I'm going to preserve it.
Of course.
And that's what they do. And then they say, David, you started working. You want a solution to manage your finances? Here's a life policy. But all those are tools for wealth preservation.
Exactly.
And then you're now battling with black tax. Do I pay my life policy, or do I look after my family? You know, because you're unequally yoked. So it's that conversation
and yet my perspective of life is in relation to
Yes.
my white neighbor.
Of course, I went to my parents, my mom was a nurse, my dad was a humble sound engineer, and they took me to private school. So private school where children at 16 were driving Mercs and Beamers. I had no idea these cars existed. 500 SEC, I remember that's the first Mercedes I went to. It was driven by a friend.
What? White friend.
Buttons everywhere.
Yes.
It's like a car with so many buttons. And at that time, we had a family of 5 children, and we used to drive a Renault 5, the little Renault 5, that tiny little one.
Yeah.
And that's the one we all used to squeeze into and go. And I grew up now thinking I'm them. Yeah. We do war cries.
Okay. All right. The curse that is the Rainbow Nation fallacy. What's happening here, the language we use when we talk to our parents who just made it out of poverty, and we're probably the second generation of people from that family to live in houses that have plumbing. Do you know what I'm saying? The problem is that when we're in these schools and we are mingling with people from other social groups and like different tax brackets and different race and stuff, when you exist in the same space long enough with them, you become stupid and delusional thanks to that Rainbow Nation bullshit, and you think you guys are doing the same thing. You're not. Okay, so when you see Nikita and Jessica and them and how prepared their parents are for their lives and for varsity, and you're like, why couldn't my mom be prepared like so-and-so's mom and whatever? It's this nonsense. It's because you share space so much with them, you start thinking you guys go home to the same thing. You don't. You don't go back home to the same environment. Far from it. And I need you guys, they know the white kids you calling your friends, they look at you as an employee, and how do I fucking know this? In college, my friend, the only friend I made in college, I was cool with everybody else, but she's my only mate. We're in the same fucking college. She fixes her mouth to say to me, we're getting this, we're there for the same qualification, stay with me. And this hand says to me, she's white, this hand says to me, yeah, when I build my whatever, maybe you can come and work for me. They know they have a fucking leg up, but you want to be delusional about where you are. Right? You want to act like you're on the same level and the same kind of like upper hand that they have. The generations of planning off our fucking backs that their parents have done, right? The exploiting of African labor to amass all the fucking nice things that they have, that they continue to use to exclude us from spaces, to make like our lives difficult. You want to act like you're just like them. Your mom, who's a nurse, and Mama's mom, who has 3 generations of lawyers in her family, not the same. Not the same, and you guys need to divorce yourself from this idea. Your parents do not have the need, and even if they try their very, very hardest, and I'll get to that as to where I feel we're getting some things wrong and we could otherwise be planning a lot better. Even in those scenarios, they will never be able to do it on the level that Jessica's mom is doing it. Let's be real now, right? This is where I feel, oh my God, how come my parents can't just like be prepared? I want to see what you're doing in your first year of working or first couple of years with those monies. I want to see the discipline you have to put away money to save and still live in this economy with all of that talking you guys like to do with your mouths. That aside, and I really feel like this is what they had in mind with that Rainbow Nation shit. It's like, let's just convince the black people. And it's the same shit that I see happening. What was this discourse that was dominating my internet a while ago with the Americans? What do they call it? I forget what they call it. I forget the exact term. But it's basically an introduction of real account of history, American history, with, I suppose, a focus on, black history and the structural inequality that continues to exist. What is it called? If I remember, I'll type it. the structural inequalities that continue to exist as a legacy of Jim Crow and slavery. We have that, right? The apartheid legacy, the colonial shit, and the things that continue to happen and to exist, the exclusion by design, by policy, by political choice and decisions that continue to hamper us. But because people want to absolve themselves of the responsibility that they have to us by virtue of them coming from the people that they come from, they would rather make the problem an individual one. You all just need to manage your monies better. The same monies they aren't paying you. How much are they paying the people who work at the fucking ShopRite? Are those the fucking monies they want them to manage? White women buy cosmetics worth more than that on a monthly. So I don't know what the fuck this chat is. Okay? Right. Let's leave the white people alone. You know, they're gonna cry. Like, oh my god, reverse racism. Anyway. The chat I don't want to have, but I have to have. Accountability is such a disease. Yeah. Are there some things that we could do? See, guys, this is gonna be short for me. We do save for occasions. Like I said, we're big on there's a wedding coming up, and then all of a sudden we know how to put money away, right? And my other maid made the point of the instant gratification thing, like the spending to get, we can't do the long game thing. And I suppose that comes from not having had much. You need little bursts of joy and life and whatever, you know, it's a coping mechanism of sorts, but we need to like do away with that shit. I realize that we plan too much for funerals. We plan too much for that more than we do for actual life and life after the funeral, and that shit is getting tiresome and embarrassing. I was like, you know what, Biz, have these people cremate me and scatter me on like I don't know, like a baby breath bush or something. I'll do some good there, surely. And she's like, oh my god, your mom and I will never allow that, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now y'all are running around, pink was her favorite color, trying to get me a pink casket that cost more than I don't know fucking what, when we could be doing something else with that money. Then it's the stock files. You all putting away all this money so you can have, you know, mayonnaise, tomato sauce, and like knorr minestrone, like reconstituted soups at Christmas time. I can't stand it. Can you tell? The money is getting put away, you guys, but I think we're putting away toward the wrong things. I really think we are in part. And no, the monies aren't like large sums of money that could possibly see your children through the entire varsity career if you would like, or stay, but it will make a difference, especially in the beginning. This young lady makes a note of the fact that even when you apply for funding, things usually clear later, so you need something to catch you for at least a good 3 months. You need them to make plans, and they can't even help you with those things. The monies for the Knorr brown soup and stuff, it's the very same monies. Can we by the way, guys, let's just talk fairly here. Like she seems like I keep trying to, and nobody ever has an answer for me. These stock files for the groceries, how long do the groceries push? Are they just for December? Because it'll be one thing if you're buying bulk to push for like a period of 3 months or something, so you can focus on other things in the meantime. But if you're all just eating the groceries all throughout the December holiday because for whatever reason, oh my god, I can't imagine the toilet paper cost. For whatever reason, like, we think we just need to be eating constantly during the holiday season. Anyway. Anyway, I'm not gonna judge, okay? I think I've done that the whole video. I think I judged the whole video. I don't know if I'm gonna use this video. Anyway, Ella, that's it. I'm really done. It's not by accident, guys, that they don't teach us financial literacy in school. It's to keep us in this rat race, okay? People can explain this a lot better than I just did right now because I was all over the place, but I hope you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. We need to have some grace, apply ourselves when we think about these things, and figure out how we're gonna move differently if we ever decide to have kids. And the way the economy is set up, this one girl might not. Like literally, capitalism is dictating what I can and can't do with my womb right now. Do you see where we're finding ourselves? It's literally screaming at me, bitch, you can't afford a baby. Because your baby's never gonna go to varsity because you will never afford it because of how I've set shit up. Alright? That's all I wanted to say, Yella. Mwah, mwah. Bye, Yella.